representatives of the Spacing Guild, and a sister of the Bene Gesserit.
Hi there, my name is Joey, and I'm back again with another marvelous video. The Spacing Guild, Masters of Interstellar Travel in Dune. The Holtzman effect, as described in Frank Herbert's Dune series, was named after the scientist who first proposed the theory, and it revolutionized the technology available to humanity. This scientific discovery allowed for the creation of shields, suspensors, and glow globes, as well as the ability to fold space and time, enabling instantaneous travel across the universe. However, it was the Spacing Guild who held the monopoly on this technology, as well as imperial banking, making them a powerful and mysterious organization in the Dune universe. The Guild's control over space travel and the spice trade gave them significant political and economic influence, particularly on the desert planet Arrakis. This unique approach to space travel, combined with the ban on computing technology, adds depth and complexity to the story of Dune. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. But how exactly did they achieve this ability to gain limited presence and navigate folded space to guide starships? Of course, they would require someone to guide the starships called Highliners across interstellar space, and this is where the Guild Navigators come into the picture. The Navigators, who are the pilots of the colossal Guild Highliners through space, were once ordinary humans that underwent a mutation caused by the extensive ingestion and exposure to a substance known as the Spice Melange. The heightened awareness and prescience the spice grants permits the Navigators to plot a safe course between the stars, allowing a nearly instantaneous trip. But for them to possess the ability of precognition, they had to continuously consume large quantities of the spice and immerse themselves in large quantities of orange space gas. As a result of consuming and being exposed to massive amounts of the Spice Melange, the Navigators' bodies undergo atrophy and mutation, causing elongation of their heads and extremities and giving them an aquatic-like appearance. Prolonged exposure also leads to a change in the color of their eyes to a dark blue, known as blue in blue, or the eyes of Ibad, a common side effect of spice addicts. Although contrary to popular belief, the Navigators do not themselves fold space. Instead, the space folding is accomplished by Holtzman drive units activated from the Navigator's chamber. Despite their immense power, their main priority lies in the maintenance of commerce and their economic foundation. They do not seek any goals beyond their economic interests and guard their monopoly and privacy fiercely. Even though their own agents never see Navigators, and translation devices are required to communicate with them due to their mutated appearances and voices, the Spacing Guild serves as a balancing force against the Pashada Emperor and the noble houses of the Lancerod, making them an essential component of the Dune universe. But what is the lore behind this mysterious organization? The inception of the Spacing Guilds can be attributed to Norma Senva, who was not only a brilliant mathematician, but also possessed incredible psychic abilities. She was known to have deliberately undergone a mutation process by consuming the Spice Melange, which played a crucial role in the creation of the guilds. However, the truth was that the guild's real founder was Aurelius Venport, who was Senva's lover, and later she herself acknowledged him as the one who established it and never credited him. But because of her intense focus on her work, Senva didn't pay attention to the potential political and social ramifications of her groundbreaking technology. However, her ruthless son, who assumed control after her mutation, played a major role in shaping the guild's desire for power. Following the conclusion of the Butlerian Jihad, which was a violent uprising against intelligence machines that lasted from 201 BG to 108 BG, humanity underwent a period of reflection. With the destruction of all thinking machines built by humans across the world, the people began to question their reliance on gods and rituals that had been used to control them through fear. Leaders from various religions began to convene and exchange ideas. However, the most significant consequence of jihad was a prohibition against creating machines that were too similar to the human mind. This left a significant void in human society and prompted the emergence of new orders, including the Mentats, the Bene Gesserit, and the Spacing Guild. These organizations were formed to bridge the gap left by the absence of intelligence machines, and to provide specialized services that were previously performed by machines. The Guild played a significant role in establishing religious standardization by promoting the widespread use of the Orange Catholic Bible. Although the Guild leadership were atheists, they recognized the value of a stable and organized religious system, which could provide social cohesion and foster economic stability. To this end, the Guild offered protection to the theologians responsible for creating the Orange Catholic Bible, ensuring that their work was widely distributed and accepted throughout the universe. In this way, the Guild was able to maintain its influence and profit from the stable societal order that the widespread adoption of the Orange Catholic Bible helped to establish. This is when their monopoly on space travel, transport, and interstellar banking truly began. Instead of directly seizing power, the Spacing Guild preferred to wield their influence from the shadows and share power with the ruling emperor and noble houses. According to protagonist Paul Atreides in the Dune series, this strategy stemmed from their belief that all political empires eventually collapse, and they must ensure their continued existence by acting as a parasite, supporting one imperial dynasty until it falls and then switching allegiance to the next. Some argue that the Guild's emergence as a powerful political and economic entity occurred around the time of the Great Convention in the 1st century AG, which coincided with the beginning of the imperial calendar. Throughout the era of the Corino Empire, the Guild's exclusive control over interstellar travel at faster-than-light speed played a crucial role, earning it the nickname of the Guild Peace. Despite their influence, Paul Atreides discovered that the Guild's power was ultimately dependent on the Spice Melange, which could only be found on the dangerous desert planet Arrakis. Without it, the Guild was rendered blind and unable to navigate interstellar travel. As a result, Atreides was able to dispose of the ruling Pashada Emperor and check the Guild's authority. They had no choice but to yield to Paul's control of the Spice Melange, as their limited powers of prophecy showed that he was capable of destroying it. In a bid to overthrow Paul, various individuals band together, each with their own motivations. Edric, a navigator, joined forces with Helen Mohim, who is the Reverend Mother of the Bene Gesserit, and Saitali. To add to the already brewing tension in the pot, we find out that Paul's wife, Princess Aurelian, had also participated in their plan to assassinate Paul. Edric's involvement is driven by the Spacing Guild's desire to take control of the Melange supply. Despite Paul's prescient abilities, he was unable to detect the Guild's machinations due to Edric's strategic concealment. Instead, Paul's prophetic powers were fueled by his exposure to Melange and his subsequent transformation by the Water of Life, granting him unparalleled insight into future events. With his unique abilities, Paul could even navigate the world without sight, relying solely on the details of his visions to guide his actions. After all their efforts, the assassination plot ultimately failed, and as a result, Paul's sister, Ilia Atreides, orders the execution of both Edric and Mohim, which is carried out by Fremen Naib Stilgar. However, the Guild remained a significant political power, with their inner structure taking on functions previously done by thinking machines, Mentet and the Bene Gesserit. That was until the ascendancy of Leto Atreides II to the title of God Emperor. As we discussed previously, the Guild's ability to navigate through space using the Holtzman effect was completely reliant on the Spice Melange. Any shortage of spice would greatly affect their ability to safely transport their vessels across long distances, effectively crippling their operations and slowing down interstellar travel and transport to a crawl. In a time before the Spice Melange unique properties were known, space travel was a perilous endeavor. The process of space folding, which allowed ships to travel vast distances instantaneously, was fraught with danger, with a staggering 1 in every 8 space folders lost due to the inability to avoid gravitational hazards. The discovery of the Spice Melange and the subsequent emergence of the Navigators provided a much-needed solution to this problem, allowing for safer and more efficient space travel. The universe had come a long way since the days of Paul Atreides. Technological advancements were being made at a breakneck pace, and the Spacing Guild was facing a crisis. The Ixians had developed a new technology called compilers that threatened to make Guild navigators obsolete. This was a huge risk, given that the Guild's ability to fold space was dependent on the Spice Melange, which was in short supply. The long rule of Leto II had taught the universe about the dangers of precedence and the risks of giving one entity absolute power. Leto had hoarded the spice, diminishing the Guild's power base. The arrival of the Honored Maters, with their Ixian no-ships that could perform the same functions as a Guild navigator, further eroded the Guild's power. Despite this, the Guild remained committed to their policy of secrecy and maintained their status as a powerful political and economic force. They decided to merge with Ix, which was in decline, to try and preserve their relevance in the universe. However, their importance had diminished significantly, and their future was uncertain. The universe was changing, and the Guild would have to adapt or face oblivion. Guild Navigators, the mutated humans blessed with the power of prescience. Very few knew of the inner workings of the Spacing Guild, except for the select few who were deemed worthy enough to work for them. Among these elite members were the Guild Navigators, and we already know of this group of artificially evolved humans who possessed incredible prescient abilities because of the psychoactive drug called Melange, which allowed them to guide spacecraft through the dangerous and treacherous gravitational obstacles that existed between the source and any destination in space. The Navigators guarded their privacy fiercely, fiercely and were rarely seen by outsiders. In Frank Herbert's depiction, they were described as beings with stretched-out bodies that had some resemblance to humanoids but with feet that resembled fins and large fan-shaped membranes attached to their hands. Their mutations were so severe that Duke Leto Atreides believed that they no longer appeared human. Guild navigators had replaced the navigational computers that were once used before the Butlerian Jihad, which saw the destruction of all thinking machines and a commandment against their usage. The navigators accomplished their tasks by using their prescient abilities, which allowed them to see into the future and determine safe routes before a fold actually took place. They did this by either inhaling massive amounts of orange spice gas or swallowing spice pills. In the 1984 film Dune, the navigators were depicted as resembling either giant whales or slugs with heavily deformed heads, suspended in orange spice gas tanks with vestigial limbs. However, the film did not show their distinct eyes, which were a telltale sign of spice addiction, as we know. In the movie adaptation of Dune released in 2021, the Guild envoys were portrayed as having a human-like appearance, but their unique physical characteristics were concealed by elaborate white garments and a round semi-transparent helmet with an orange semi-reflective visor. It is unclear if these characters were actually navigators, since Thufir Hawat had accounted for 3 navigators in his analysis of the journey's expenses, while there were more than 3 envoys present. How powerful was the Spacing Guild? The Spacing Guild was once a vital component of the Imperium, without which it would all be lost and everything would be cut off from communication and trade. And now we know that this powerful faction controlled all fold space travel, and by extension, all trade. Because of their apolitical nature, they were one of the most trusted banking institutions because they remained neutral in the House and Imperium affairs. Even their financial advisors were highly sought after, as very few people knew banking the way the Guild did. They could bankroll all manner of operations under the Imperial gaze and work closely with reliable mentats to record all accounts and keep secret ledgers in the darker corners of their mind. Guild agents were sought after for their financial advice and contacts, as well as their ability to facilitate the needs of their clients. And of course, we now know that the real cream of the crop were the Guild navigators, who were well versed in the intricacies of various systems and crafts. They were entrusted with the vital task of shuttling passengers to and from the Guild's massive highliners, as well as transporting people and cargo across planets and star systems. They also served as indispensable advisors for anyone in a house seeking to travel or move valuable assets. With their expert knowledge of Guild protocols and extensive contacts across space, they could time transport to coincide perfectly with the arrival of a highliner and even bend the rules for the right customer. The Spacing Guild's trade advisors wielded immense power, utilizing their vast network of contacts and unparalleled knowledge to guide their houses towards riches. They possessed a keen eye for identifying commodities that could fetch fortunes in far-off corners of the known universe, and their connections among spacefarers provided them with a constant stream of rumors and news. Meanwhile, the Guild's recruitment process for prescient individuals involved a grueling test where they were submerged in the orange spice gas, which allowed them to transcend their physical form and venture into the infinite expanse of the universe. And those who failed were consigned to a life on the planet, while the successful few awakened a latent prescient ability that could manifest in a variety of ways, from prophetic visions to telepathic connections with close companions. Why did the Spacing Guild never take over Dune? As you delved into the intricate world of Dune, you probably couldn't help but be fascinated by the complex power dynamics of the Spacing Guild. Their control over interplanetary travel had given them an unparalleled advantage in the universe, but their power seemed to be limited by their reliance on the spice, the lifeblood that fueled their navigators. But why didn't the Guild exert more control over the universe prior to the rise of Paul and Leto II? They had the power to isolate and contain entire planets and manipulate trade, and to maintain 2 completely separate universes without ever acknowledging the existence of the other. With their ability to selectively adapt and utilize emerging technologies, they could have ruled the universe rather than just servicing its rulers. But why didn't they? Paul Atreides had also observed the Guild's obsession with the safe path that had led them ever into stagnation. The once powerful entity of the universe had become a parasitic creature, completely reliant on the spice for their survival. Their power was, in fact, their greatest weakness. They had never dared to grasp the sword of power and instead lived from moment to moment, hoping to find a new host when the old one died. Their reluctance to embrace change had led them on a path of stagnation. With the emergence of new technologies and the passing of old ones, a natural part of the universe's evolution. Even their navigators, blessed with limited prescience, had become trapped in their reliance on their greatest asset, fearful of taking the direct path that would nullify their advantage and force them to operate in a different way. Even so, the Guild's spice supply is not primarily obtained through legitimate means, but rather on the bribes they levy on the Fremen to restrict the use of satellites above Dune skies. As a result, it is impossible to accurately determine the amount of spice that the Guild is consuming. As time passed, the Guild's power waned as new factions led by figures such as Paul and Leto II emerged to challenge their monopoly on interplanetary travel. The increasing use of Ixian technology further eroded their importance, reducing them to mere bystanders in the events of the later books. The very strength that had once made them great had become their downfall, and they were unable to adapt and evolve in a challenging universe. They had become like a tree that refused to bend with the winds of change, and eventually, they were uprooted and toppled. How the Bene Gesserit makes use of the Spice Melange. Dune features two very powerful groups that obtain their mental abilities from the spice, but only they know this fact. And one of them is the Bene Gesserit, which is a secret matriarchal group that trains its members for years through mental and physical conditioning to acquire superhuman powers that outsiders may view as magical. These powers, combined with the group's influence and power, allow the sisterhood to guide humanity towards a particular path. The Reverend Mothers possess unique abilities that are made possible by the substance known as melange. However, the use of this substance comes with a cost. Regular consumption of melange leads to addiction and dependence for survival, and those who have undergone the agony experience an even greater need. While the benefits of melange are significant, including extended lifespan and enhanced mental abilities, withdrawal from the substance can be fatal. Acquiring melange is a significant financial burden for the Bene Gesserit Sisterhood, and the risk of losing their supply poses a major threat to their stability. To maintain control over the Sisterhood, Paul Atreides and his son Leto II use hydraulic despotism to take control of Arrakis and its spice supply. Apart from its physical properties, the Spice Melange also holds a pivotal position in the spying tactics and divination of the Bene Gesserit Sisterhood. The Water of Life, a potent bew extracted from the carcass of a small sandworm, was instrumental in elevating the Bene Gesserit sisters to the exalted status of Reverend Mothers. Those ascended members of the Order were imbued with the ability to tap into the other memory, an extensive collective consciousness that spanned over millennia of genetic inheritance. This mystical power enabled them to foresee future events and glean valuable information that was essential to their clandestine operations. The knowledge imparted by the spice was the lifeblood of the Bene Gesserit Sisterhood, and they guarded its secrets with unwavering devotion. They also have a secretive breeding program that aims to produce a superhuman male called the Kwisatz Haderach. The group have been conducting this program for generations by carefully manipulating relationships and bloodlines. The Kwisatz Haderach is a significant figure in the Bene Gesserit's plans, and they believe that he will have the mental powers to bridge space and time, and have access to both male and female lines and other memory. The program aims to create the perfect superhuman being, capable of being in two places simultaneously, or many places at once. The ultimate goal of the Sisterhood is to use this figure as a messiah to guide humanity in their enlightened path. In theory, the Bene Gesserit's breeding program comes to fruition when the Atreides daughter, born to Lady Jessica and Duke Leto Atreides, unites with Fade Ruther Harkonnen, the nephew of Baron Vladimir Harkonnen. However, the plan is disrupted when Lady Jessica chooses to conceive an Atreides son instead of the daughter she had been ordered to produce. This son, Paul Atreides, becomes the Kwisatz Haderach, born a generation early. Paul rises to power as the Emperor of the known universe, securing his position through his control of the melange supply. However, he despises the religion that has developed around him and seeks to change the course of the future. He walks into the desert to seek death, hoping that his actions will alter the future. His son, Leto II, also becomes the Kwisatz Haderach and takes control of the Empire and the Bene Gesserit breeding program in Children of Dune. He transforms into a human sandworm hybrid to extend his life and give himself enough time for his golden path to become realized. After 1,500 years, the Bene Gesserit restore their breeding program, but they are too afraid to create another Kwisatz Haderach. Instead, they breed individuals with exceptional talent and usefulness to amplify certain human characteristics and preserve them. They also have an expanded goal of saving humanity from extinction while advancing it, having learned about Leto's golden path. The political landscape of the Dune universe. The Imperium is a vast and powerful empire in the universe that is fueled by a rare commodity known as spice. The noble houses of the Imperium rely on spice for economic and geopolitical reasons. For example, Catane, which is situated approximately 30 light-years north of Seleucia Secundus, served as the headquarters of House Corino. This powerful house governed through intimidation and skillful elimination of the Emperor's foes, thanks to the Sardaukar military force trained on Seleucia Secundus, known for their fanaticism and exceptional proficiency. However, To project their military power, they needed spice. House Harkonnen was another house that became addicted to the spice, given its administrative control over Arrakis. House Harkonnen became one of the wealthiest houses in the Imperium after they disavowed spice. With its power nearly unrivaled, House Atreides of Caladan, on the other hand, did not rely on spice as much as the other houses because it was a self-sufficient and prosperous planet. The other houses, consumed by their addiction to spice, were unable to recognize House Atreides' advantage of self-reliance. Unlike House Harkonnen and the Emperor, whose power relied on the precious resource, House Atreides could maintain its strength even if Arrakis were destroyed. Moreover, the Spacing Guild, whose navigators had a monopoly on folded space travel in the Imperium, would not be affected by the loss of Arrakis either. The Emperor, feeling threatened by House Atreides' power and self-sufficiency, conspired with House Harkonnen to offer control of Arrakis to Duke Leto Atreides. They believed that House Atreides lacked the strength to govern Arrakis and would eventually crumble. However, they underestimated House Atreides, which used its newfound power to overthrow the Emperor. The Spacing Guild had a significant political advantage in the Dune world because they could transport goods, people, supplies, and information anywhere and everywhere, making them an indispensable asset to the great houses. However, their monopoly on transportation was not the only source of their power. The secret of their navigation through hyperspace with the use of spice was a closely guarded secret that could be used against them or by someone else to create their own navigators. To maintain their monopoly, the guild relied on smuggled spice from the Fremen. The Fremen provided the smuggled spice to many smugglers, but they also bribed the guild to prevent satellite launches that would reveal their thriving communities in the deep desert. The guild used this spice to transport the atomics and Sardaukar needed to remove any threats to their monopoly. The great houses were entirely dependent on the guild for interstellar travel, trade, and income. The guild charged a premium for transporting troops, making large-scale invasions impossible, and they could isolate and exile any house if they chose to do so. However, they didn't do this because they were dependent on the houses and the Emperor for spice. Despite their power, the guild was vulnerable to anyone who can control the production of spice. Paul, the protagonist of the novel, figured out the guild's reliance on spice and used it to hold power over them. He threatened to destroy all spice on Arrakis and kill all sandworms, causing a chain reaction that would disrupt the balance of power. The guild knew they couldn't take the risk, so they yielded to Paul's demands. Conclusion: Frank Herbert's Dune has left a lasting legacy on science fiction and beyond. Herbert's experience researching the Oregon sand dunes led him to explore the concept of engineering an ecosystem and ultimately inspired the creation of his masterpiece. Though it initially struggled to find a publisher, Dune went on to win prestigious science fiction awards and build a dedicated following in the 60s and 70s, eventually becoming widely regarded as one of the greatest novels in the genre. The world of Dune is set in a far future where noble houses, treachery, and politics dominate, all centered around the valuable commodity known as spice. Despite its harsh desert landscape, Herbert's vision of Arrakis and its people has captured readers' imaginations for decades and will undoubtedly continue to do so for years to come. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks, everyone.